Okay, so we have a new film here in the UK called I, Daniel Blake. This is a film that really hits a very topical issue, which is how people in the UK who are unemployed are treated through the welfare system. And it follows a 59-year-old man who has just been made redundant and a single mother, and their struggles as they go through the welfare system. And the 59-year-old man has just suffered a heart attack. The film explores such topics as the way that claimants are treated within the job centre. It explores the despair that they go through. It explores the threatening nature of the system. And it's a typical Ken Loach film. If anyone's familiar with Ken Loach's work, he he's long known for his gritty realism, going way back to Kathy Comes Home in the mid 60s. And in fact, I don't know if that was his first film, but he's made many films, and they all have a common theme of gritty social realism. Admittedly, they're not the sort of film you could go with some popcorn and enjoy and put your feet up. They're not those sort of films. They're not feel good films. They're gritty, realistic films. In a sense, you could almost see it as Ken Loach, in a sense, as a modern day Catherine Cookson. Now, what I mean by that is Catherine Cookson, who was also a writer from my region, was a writer from my region. Her works were often depicting very issues like poverty and deprivation, except during sort of Victorian, the early 20th century period. Ken Loach, his films are set in contemporary settings, and he's not a writer, obviously, but his films are prose in their own right, and he touches on social realities. He deliberately chooses a cast that are not well known, they're not big actors, and I think that's part of the realism technique that he uses. They're not feel good films, but this latest film has attracted a bit of controversy from the Conservative Party. Now, today in Parliament, Damien Green, who is the new Work and Pensions Secretary, got up and he was rebuking presumably a Labour member. I'm not sure who it was, but he was saying, I, Daniel Blake, is a work of fiction. And I haven't seen the film, I've seen trailers to it, but as I understand it, it is monstrously unfair on job centre staff. Now, first of all, if he hasn't seen it, how can he make a critical judgment of the film? Ken Loach doesn't say it's a documentary. Ken Loach isn't pretending that it is a documentary. Yes, they are fictional characters, but is a film based on social situations that really are happening. And I was one of many people who responded to that post that was on Channel 4 saying maybe if Damien Green had actually been through the system, he would know what it's like. I mean, he's very quick to defend job centre staff. But here's the thing, those of us who have been through the system, the fact of the matter is there are job centre staff who get a kick out of having control over other people. They're basically bullies, and they love talking down to and condescending people. Damien Green is claiming that they're all wonderfully conscientious people. That's hard to believe. Now, if he says, let's not generalise them, they're not all bad, that would be fair enough. But he's painting this picture like there's nothing wrong with the welfare system. And he's just being stubbornly ignorant of what. The reason people are responding well to this film and responding angrily to Damien Green's comment is because Ken Loach has hit the nail on the head, and I give him credit for that. Is he biased? Is he left wing? Yes. But as someone who's been through the system, I can tell you it is degrading, it is soul destroying, and there are staff who basically treat you like shit. They talk down to you. That there's no equilibrium in terms of respect because, and I think the film shows this. I haven't seen the film myself yet. I have to be candid about that. But I have looked at reviews at it. The reason I'm not going to watch it is precisely because it's too realistic. Sorry for the shaking screen. Precisely because it is too realistic. When I go to watch a film, I want to relax. I don't want to go and be reminded of things that I've personally been through and just get, I wouldn't pay money to do that. But I give Ken Loach credit for raising these issues, and it's a case of shooting the messenger. He's not claiming it's a documentary work. He's not claiming that the exact characters and so on are real people. But the fact of the matter is, there have been people in very similar situations. For example, people who went through very serious medical procedures, and they've been sent threatening letters for work capability assessments. This is a fact. It's an irrefutable fact. It is also a fact that when you're going through the system, you're constantly threatened. Every piece of correspondence is a threat. It's basically, you will do this or you will lose the money. You will do that or we will sanction you. It's constant threat of sanctions. Now, I understand that if you're receiving money from the state, there are obligations. I have no problem with that. I do think, however, that forced 35-hour job searches per week with less than £3 a week amounts to a form of exploitation. If they're going to force you to job search for 35 hours, and by the way, they tell you to treat it like a full time job, then at least pay people that corresponds with that. Because no one doing a real job would accept such a pittance of money. So when Conservatives talk about something for nothing, this is the real something for nothing. Exploiting unemployed people in order to pander to gutter rags like the sun. And I am convinced that is what this government is doing. It's what the May government's doing, it's what the Cameron government is doing, and frankly, it's what the Blair and Brown government's done as well. Because New Labour wasn't much better in the way that they treated the unemployed. Um, and it's a total disgrace. Frankly, it makes me furious. And this is one area I admit that I am very critical of Conservative. Very. It's an area where I just could never bring myself to vote for them. Because it's not just that they're callous, it's that they're actually ignorant. They don't know the issues. They pontificate. Damien Green, as Secretary of State for Work and Pensions, should be speaking to unemployed people, trying to get some grasp of what people are going through, which would help him in his brief to deliver services to people who need it. No one is saying unemployed people should just get things on a plate. No one is suggesting that at all. What they are saying is stop treating us like criminals and stop degrading people in this way. This is disgraceful. There are law-abiding British citizens who are basically being treated like criminals for no other reason than they are unemployed. And frankly, it disgusts me. And for Damien Green to be whinging about this film, here's the thing. For the past many years, the tabloids, in fact, only today I saw yet another Sun headline attacking a benefit claimant. For years, they have been pumping out this propaganda, trying to vilify unemployed people. In the 2010 general election, they had big billboards talking about how tough they were going to be on the unemployed. I call Ken Loach's film the deviling the playing field. It's getting some sort of balance because this situation is bloody disgraceful. The Tories claim that when people are feeling suicidal, it's taken very seriously. They don't give a shit. The system does not care. They really don't care because the robots who run those job centres don't care about human beings. For them, it's computer says no. If you know the Little Britain sketch, it's really soulless. And the Labour Party was absolutely right to say, I can't remember if it was Jeremy Corbyn or John McDonnell, but one of them said the welfare system has become callous. And it may have even been Andy Burnham. Honestly, I can't remember. But a senior Labour figure said that the welfare system has become callous and cruel. I agree with that, absolutely. I may disagree with the Labour Party in other areas, but I do believe, and this is one thing I will agree with Jeremy Corbyn on, I believe that his Labour Party is far more compassionate and understanding of unemployed people. At least they're prepared to listen to unemployed people. The Tory mindset is basically, oh, the unemployed are lazy or the unemployed are a strain on the economy, so we need to punish them. That's their mindset. They'll never say that. They'll use all this, sugar-coated language like, oh, we want to help unemployed people. And the Tories have an institutional dislike of unemployed people, and they always have. This is just a fact. It's in their DNA. They look down on unemployed people. They see them as benefit scroungers. They see them as lazy, all the rest of it, because some people do abuse the system. So it's a policy of collective punishment. Damien Green is deluded. He needs to get into the real world and actually see what people are going through. Then maybe he won't shoot the messenger being Ken Loach. Because Ken Loach isn't claiming this as a documentary work. He's making this film to highlight the issues that people really are facing. It's set in Newcastle upon Tyne, which is not far from where I live. Another reason I wouldn't see it, it's just too close to home, and it would just piss me off, to be honest, seeing the way people are treated. But I do give Ken Loach a lot of credit for raising these issues. And finally, as if it wasn't clear, this is an area I just cannot align myself with conservatives on. There are areas I would be more conservative on issues like crime. But when it comes to welfare, when it comes to unemployment, it disgusts me that the Tories and their slimy tabloid papers that support them, the Sun and the Express and the Mail, in my view, they stir up hatred against unemployed people because what the tabloids do, the Tory supporting tabloids, have these big glaring headlines about some welfare cheat. But what they do is they report it in a way that extreme cases are the norm. So they'll find someone who, I don't know, has 20 children with 10 different women and is claiming thousands in welfare. That's wrong. Right, I get that. But what the gutter rags do is they paint this up like it's the norm. And then you get the likes of Jeremy Kyle, who I think is a complete scumbag. And I make no apology for that. I despise the man. And they do the same thing. Um, so the fact that one director has made a film to try and balance things out just a little bit, I say well done to him. I hope he gets some award for it because what Ken Loach is doing is trying to raise public awareness of what is going on here. And I see nothing wrong with that. If people don't agree with him, they don't have to watch the film. But what he is doing is raising issues that are real. They're happening in this country, and it's an utterly disgraceful legacy of the Cameron years. May is showing that she's going to be no different. Actually, I got a letter from Theresa May about 6 or 7 years ago because I'd raised this issue. She was then, I believe, shadow work and pensions, and she came back with a very weak response saying, "Oh, we're sorry if the media has led you to believe that the Tories think the unemployed are lazy, etc." So she basically just denied everything, but their behaviour since then has proven the contrary. Um, and I get that Tory voters don't understand this because most Tory voters tend to be of the view that it's kind of a survival of the fittest mentality. Like, oh, I've got mine. Why should people get my money? I'm a hardworking taxpayer. What they fail to understand is that the welfare system is for everybody. There's unfairness in it in terms of how the money's allocated, but the system is for everyone. It's supposed to be a bedrock to give people a safety net, and that's for anyone, including Tory voters. If they fall on hard times, they can apply for it. This is for everyone. So I get a little bit tired of this. I'm a hard-working taxpayer and I resent the lazy unemployed, blah, blah. Firstly, it's not free money. That's a myth. It is not free money because there are very strict obligations. If you don't abide by the obligations, you lose the money. Okay? So let's just get rid of this myth that it's free money. Secondly, something for nothing. Forcing someone to do pointless job searches for 35 hours a week. And I say pointless, there's only so many jobs that you can apply for without starting to go around in circles, is soul destroying and degrading. But the point is, they tell you to treat it like a real job. That is the real something for nothing. So I am sick to high heaven with this shit. And the reason I haven't made a video like this for a while is because it does work me up. I've been through it. I know how degrading it is. And yes, it's true that not all staff are bad people. Some of them are decent enough people. They're just trying to get on with the job. But the fact of the matter is, there are people who work in the job centre who get a kick out of talking down to others. And they're completely void of any sort of empathy or understanding. If you raise a complaint, they'll just say you're being aggressive and they'll throw you out. And I think the film highlights that. It shows it in the trailer. So there's no equality in this whatsoever. They have all these signs all over the place saying, we do not tolerate aggression or violence. Fair enough. But the point is, what right do claimants have? None. So if an advisor is being rude to them, if an advisor is talking down to them, there's no equilibrium. And I know that they sometimes have to put up with difficult people. I'm not foolish. I know that there are people who go through the system who are selfish people who just want the money and they don't care. I get that. But what I totally resent and reject is this approach of collective punishment. And all I would say to conservative-minded people is, unless you have been through it, you really don't know what this is like, and you don't know the facts, because you're getting them from biased tabloid trash that only show one side of the story.